Mike and Emma had been driving for hours. The sun had long dipped below the horizon, and the darkness of the night swallowed the barren landscape around them. They were heading to a remote cabin in the mountains for the weekend, hoping for some peace and quiet away from the hustle of city life. The winding road ahead was almost empty, with only the occasional pair of headlights flickering past. The car radio crackled with static, unable to pick up a station. Mike, focused on the road, glanced occasionally at the GPS, while Emma pulled her jacket tighter, feeling the cold creeping in through the car's windows. Everything was going as planned, until something out of place caught Emma's attention. Up ahead, standing on the side of the road under the dim light of the moon, was a figure. A man, his hood pulled low over his face, was waving slowly, asking for a ride. Emma, always the compassionate one, leaned forward in her seat. "He might be in trouble, Mike. It's so isolated out here. We should help him." Mike hesitated, his instinct warning him against it. "I don't know, Emma. This place, at this hour, something feels off." But the man stood there, staring as their car slowed down. There was something in his stillness, a quiet desperation that made Emma more insistent. "Come on, Mike, if it were us, we'd want someone to stop." Reluctantly, Mike pulled over. The man approached slowly, almost as if he was testing their reaction. "Need some help?" Mike asked, lowering the window just a crack. The man's voice was low and gravelly. "I'm heading the same way. Can you take me as far as the next turn?" His tone was calm, almost polite, but there was something about his presence that sent a shiver through Emma. Still, he didn't seem threatening, just out of place. With a brief nod, they let him in the back seat. The car began moving again, but the atmosphere inside changed, growing heavier with each passing mile. The man didn't offer much in the way of conversation. Emma tried to break the silence. "Do you live around here?" "I used to, a long time ago," the man replied, offering no more than that. Mike exchanged a quick glance with Emma. Something definitely felt wrong. The road, which he had been following on the GPS, seemed endless. They should have reached the fork that led to the cabin by now, but the landscape outside was starting to look repetitive, as if they were driving in circles. "The GPS is screwing up," Mike muttered, frustration building. "We should have been there by now, but this road doesn't end." The man in the back spoke up, his voice unnervingly calm. "This road has a way of keeping people lost. Some never find their way out." Emma felt a cold chill crawl down her spine. "What are you talking about?" "There are stories," the man continued, "of people who take this road at night and never make it to their destination. They get trapped, going in circles." Mike glanced into the rearview mirror, trying to gauge the man's expression. His hood obscured much of his face, but his eyes seemed distant, haunted. Was this some kind of threat? Or a warning? "You're joking, right?" Mike asked, forcing a casual tone despite the tension. The man didn't answer right away. Instead, he leaned slightly forward, gazing out of the window. "I took this road once. I never got where I was going." The silence that followed was suffocating. Emma and Mike exchanged uneasy glances. Before they could ask him more, the car started to slow down on its own. "What now?" Mike cursed, checking the dashboard. "We're losing power." "Are we out of gas?" Emma's voice wavered, her panic rising. Mike glanced at the fuel gauge. It was still full. That's impossible. The car came to a complete stop. No matter how many times Mike turned the key, the engine wouldn't start. The man in the back remained quiet for a moment before he spoke again. This place, it's not like other places. Emma turned around, her fear barely contained. What do you mean? What's happening here? The man, his face now faintly illuminated by the pale moonlight, sighed deeply. I told you, I've been on this road before. I was heading home, just like you, but I never made it. Mike, growing more frustrated and anxious, got out of the car to check the engine. Emma stayed behind, nervously watching the stranger through the rearview mirror. There was a sadness in him now that made her question if he was truly a threat. Could he be a victim too? Someone who got lost here and never found a way out? Suddenly, the man opened his door and stepped out into the night. Emma quickly followed, her heart racing. Wait, what's going on? Who are you, really? The man stopped and, without turning around, said, I was like you once, lost, trying to find my way back. But there's something, or someone, on this road, and once you're here, getting out isn't so easy. Mike hurried back to the car. I got the engine running again, but we need to leave. Now. Emma hesitated, glancing between Mike and the man who was now walking further away. He didn't seem evil. He seemed broken, like he'd been trapped for far too long. Maybe he wasn't the danger after all. Maybe he was trying to help them escape. Before she got into the car, Emma called out, Are you just going to stay here? The man turned his head slightly, just enough to answer, I can't leave, not anymore. They drove off, speeding down the road. The trees around them began to change, and the sense of being stuck started to fade. It felt like they were finally getting somewhere. But in the rearview mirror, Emma saw the lone figure of the man standing on the road, watching them disappear into the distance. The couple never spoke about that night again, and the truth about who the stranger was, or what had really kept them from leaving that road, remained a mystery. And maybe the man was just another victim of the road, or perhaps something darker kept him there. Now, the fate of Mike and Emma depends on what they believe, or fear.